Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I'm going to sit down with nonprofit industry experts, fundraisers, marketers, and everyone in between to get real and discuss what it takes to build that movement that you've been dreaming of. I created the Nonprofit Nation podcast to share practical wisdom and strategies to help you confidently find your voice, definitively grow your audience, and effectively build your movement. If you're a nonprofit newbie or an experienced professional who's looking to get more visibility, reach more people, and create even more impact, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I have here today the fabulous Maryanne Dersch.
Yeah.
Yay, I have the purple hair, jean jacket, and all. Maryanne specializes in helping nonprofit leaders increase their influence and be the change agents they've always wanted to be without feeling rejected, ineffective, or pushy. She's the author of Courageous Communication, How Codependence is Making Your Nonprofit Brand Boring and What to Do About It, which we're going to talk about, and founder of Up-Level Your Influence Leadership Program. She's leading a movement to change nonprofit to human investment company, which I love, to accurately reflect the contributions of the sector. Some personal notes about Maryanne. She and her husband, John, have 3 children adopted from foster care. She's known for her love of ultra high heels, something I am 6 foot tall. I do not understand. Extra large Diet Cokes, I do understand. And short karaoke rotations. I love karaoke. You get this all the time. What's your favorite karaoke song? What's your go-to?
That's just like, what's your favorite child? You know, I have a list I have a list on my phone, of like all the songs I sing. Cause like, if you go to karaoke, you're like, oh my God, what do I sing? I totally,
Me too. You forget.
So I put this list on my phone. So lately I've been singing Fergie MILF Money.
Oh, I got that MILF money.
Yeah.
I love that.
But I have been practicing Dua Lipa because it's like Don't Start Now. Like that album dropped like right before quarantine.
New Rules. What's it called?
Yeah. And like first of all, that album sounds like disco. Like I love disco. Like I listened to that song. I was like, oh my God. And grab my roller skates, 8th grade again. And so that song, like my husband and I think about that song, like got us through quarantine,
Oh, I love Dua Lipa.
I know. And so that like Don't Start or Levitating, like I'm practicing that in the car, like all the times, and this Friday, the place that I go is actually starting up again. So I don't know what new stuff they'll have, but
amazing.
Because it's been since March of last year, which is
oh my gosh. Do you like Olivia Rodrigo? This is just a complete side note.
What?
Olivia Rodrigo. I know.
Yes.
Never mind. I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah.
I ask everyone. I'm like an 11-year-old girl.
They did an SNL skit about that driver's license song.
Oh my God.
All these men in a bar started crying over that song.
Yes, it's such a good song. I love it. So we just this is a complete total tangent, but we're talking about karaoke and we're going to talk about being courageous. So I think that it coincides because to do karaoke, you do have to be courageous and not take yourself too seriously, unless you're a good singer. I'm a terrible singer. Are you a good singer?
I'm a good singer. Yeah.
Oh, see. Okay. All right. Well, then we got to go to karaoke together. But
and also I don't take myself too seriously. I mean, I think that I am a good singer and also the whole thing is to just let go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's like, I think part of a lot of what I do is helping people release around feeling certain things. Like if you can just let go and let whatever happens, release the outcome.
Love it. Yeah. I kind of don't trust people that don't do karaoke. I like them.
I could never do that. Like it's not Carnegie Music Hall. Okay. It's like some noisy bar where you're standing in the corner.
It's not American Idol. Simon Cowell is not going to yell at you.
It's like completely anyway, it's just so non-threatening for me. And yet I also get people, and you know what I love too is when people get up there and like they do it and then they're like, oh my God, that was awesome. Like, see, it's a metaphor for so many things. And
yes. Well, I know you're comfortable on stage, segueing back into the conversation I want to have. You were fantastic at Cause Camp. I'm so excited that you presented, and you just organized the 3-day donor attraction forum, which was absolutely incredible. So I know you are a woman with many ideas and insight. And what I did love, the quote that the organizers of Cause Camp, they told me that a participant had said about you: effervescent badassery with endless important info for us all. That's a tattoo.
That made my life, like effervescent badassery. That is amazing. I'm getting a t-shirt with that.
At 100%. Yeah. So let's talk about how you got involved with the work you're currently doing.
So, it's been so interesting because everyone has a COVID story, and I have a COVID story, and I've been doing what I do, working with nonprofits and messaging and all of that for a really long time. And then that's what I was doing. I was working with organizations on internal and external communications, right? Because if you can't communicate effectively internally, you're not going to be able to do it externally.
Right.
And over the years, my work had taken me more and more to like the internal workings in order for the external to really shine. But I was working, like in a B2B thing, I was working with organizations, and then COVID hit, and that was all like, and like, well, what do I do now? And so
we've only met since COVID.
Yeah, we met, which is so crazy because I feel like I've known you forever. Like
I do too.
I did more to grow my business sitting in this back corner of my house during COVID than I did like in a year and a half flying all over here and there and exhausting myself. Yep. So, I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I met so many people who wanted change and wanted to do better, but their organizations weren't really ready. And if they weren't ready for change, or if the org wasn't ready for change, like we really didn't have any place to go with our relationship. Right. And it was like, it was like, I was having like a lot of disappointing conversations.
Yeah.
Either they didn't have the influence to get a yes for what the change they wanted to see, or they just wanted to work on themselves.
It's like couples therapy, but just with one half of the couple.
Yeah. Like therapy. That's just called therapy.
Oh, right. Well, if they were trying to work it out, but
oh, right. Yes. Yeah. It's like group therapy or individual, and they so the whole group didn't want to do it. So they just didn't do it. And so what I did was I created like a group model. So I take nonprofit leaders from different organizations and put them together, and I'm teaching them influence. And I kind of did it as an experiment because there was nothing else to do, and I'm like, well, that's all these people that I would love to work with. Hold on. I got to yell at my daughter just for a sec. Taylor, honey, you got to turn it down for just a minute.
I love it.
Moms
in the pandemic.
She lives with autism and she's hearing my voice. So she wants to turn her music up to regulate my sound. Wow. So anyway, I decided to talk with other people that we had always wanted to work together, but couldn't find a way to kind of make it stick. And I said, hey, let's do this. I created this Up-Level Your Influence course, and it was like a hit. It was a huge hit. And it kind of then what I did was kind of made that the foundation of my work, because if I can teach you influence, which means getting people you have no authority over to do what you want them to do, then marketing becomes easier, fundraising becomes easier, board relationships become easier. So this became like in this just happy accident, that just became the foundation now. And also this group model allowed me to work with people either in smaller organizations who didn't need like a whole big thing, they don't have like a 7-person leadership team. They don't have, a big board or whatever. So help people from smaller organizations or just individuals who are like, yeah, I'm ready for the next level. There's something I'm not accessing yet. And I don't quite sure, either they know what it is and can't get there, or they don't know what it is. Right. And so helping them just tap into that next level of who they are as a leader, as a communicator, and helping them like karaoke, right? Like move through feelings, because a lot of times we don't do things because we're afraid of how they're going to make us feel, right? We don't want to feel guilt or shame. So we kind of avoid, I couldn't ask them for that, or I couldn't do that, or I couldn't say that, because we don't want to feel those things. So I just really help people lean into that and embrace that instead of like trying to avoid it, right? Because what I saw was people trying to solve communication and mindset issues with strategy, right? So there was a dysfunctional team. Okay, so we need a plan. Yes. Okay, well, no, first we need to work through the dysfunction. Then we can do the plan. right?
Oh,
Because they're using the strategy because they don't want to get into the drama or the mess of the feelings. When I'm like, well, if you can, first of all, it's not a mess. It's just what happened. It's not drama. It's not a mess. It's just how people process it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I just said that. I said a bad word.
No, it's okay. No worries.
That's how people process stuff. And then when you get to the other side of that, now the plan is going to work. Now whatever is going to work. So that's kind of what I do now.
Hey there. I'm interrupting this episode to share an absolutely free training that I created that's getting nonprofits of all sizes big results. Sure, you've been spending hours on social media, but what can you actually show for it? With all this posting and Instagramming and TikToking, does it really translate into action? In my free training, I'll show you exactly how to take people from passive fans to passionate supporters, and I'll give you specific steps to create social media content that actually converts. Head on over to nonprofitsthatconvert.com. Again, that's nonprofitsthatconvert.com, and start building a thriving social media community for your nonprofit right now. Without a big team, lots of tech overwhelm, or getting stuck on the question, what do I do next? Let me show you how it's done. I can't wait to see what you create. Let's jump to talking about up-level your influence, which I think is such a fantastic name for a program. Is this for mostly people that want to up-level their influence internally, or is it for executive directors that want to become thought leaders? Tell me more about the kind of person it's for.
So the kind of person it's a lot of them are executive directors of, I would say, organizations that maybe have like 5 or less staff, and they're just tired of being the top of the mountain. You know, there's no place to go for inspiration. There's a Rumi quote I use a lot. You give from the overflow, not the depths of your well, right? And they're constantly giving from the depths of their well instead of giving from this like energy rich place, right? From that overflow. And we feel like in nonprofit, we have to struggle and sacrifice. That's our obligation as nonprofit people. When it's just the opposite, you know, our job is to be the model for the change that we seek, you know, and be the example. And so that's really what I work with people on, is mostly executive directors, but it's some development directors or, you know, program people who are like, I know there's more either inside this organization that I can do, or maybe they're ready to like make career change, or, you know, thinking about where they want to go next in their career. You know, and it's just about how to be a better leader to yourself, how to be a better leader to others, and how to communicate more effectively. I teach a lot of tools and tricks around communication techniques.
Give us some tips to up-level our influence.
So here's some little tricks that you can do. So first of all, one of the ones I use a lot is the word open or open-minded. So our brain, our subconscious, you know, I work with people a lot on understanding how we think, how the brain works. I'll talk about that in just a second, but let me just give you this little hint. So open or open-minded, our subconscious, which is the main driver of our brain, wants to see it, wants to believe that you're open or open-minded. So if there's 100 people in the room and I would say, who here thinks they're open-minded? Most people would raise their hand. So if I say to you, Julia, would you be open to a conversation? You're most likely going to say yes, because if you say no, that means you're closed. And your brain says, oh, I don't want to, these things happen, these thoughts happen like in very tiny second, you know, split second.
So the word open
or open-minded. Like, so I'll say, if you're open to it, I would love to. And most people will say yes, because saying no means they're closed, and
saying no means they're not open to it. And then that's not how they want to see themselves.
Your brain, which is hardwired, your subconscious, which is hardwired, is like, you're open. You can't say you're closed. And so the subconscious doesn't think, it just does. It's a yes or no. So using words like that can help you get to a yes. I had one of the women that was in my course. I taught her that. She's like, I've been trying to get meetings with these superintendents for months. That she threw that in, and now they're like, when is a good time next week? Instead of, do you have time to meet? When, you know, when's a good time? There's a lot, you make a lot of assumptions.
When do you have an opening?
Mm-hmm. But I use like, if you're open to it, and people will mostly say yes, because if they say no, they'll have to think they're closed, and their brain's like, nope, you're open. So you say yes, these split second things. So what I teach in Cause Camp, and when I was talking about like how to make your ideas stick, right? How to get people to buy what you're selling. What you do is you don't sell it, you will let them buy it.
Oh, right? Well, let's talk about that. So sorry, not to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
But I want to talk about your presentation. It was called Make It Stick, How to Get New Ideas into Action.
Yeah.
And what I loved about this presentation is, first of all, Cause Camp, they just do such an incredible job curating and cultivating speakers and putting together the agenda. And this was at the end, because what they knew was going to happen was that all these nonprofit leaders and marketers and development directors were going to come to this virtual conference and get all these ideas and then write down 27 pages of notes. How do you get these new ideas into action, and how do you get buy-in? And I loved in the presentation, you gave us your secrets to getting others to enroll in your vision, get on board with your new ideas, which I think is so helpful after a conference, but also just helpful in general day-to-day life.
And not just like at work, just in your life. Right? I have an electrician banging upstairs because we're doing a second floor remodel, because I use these things on my husband, right? Like, I didn't sell him on the idea of this, although I had a very clear vision for what I wanted. I didn't sell him on the idea. I allowed him to I use these techniques so that he could make that decision. Because if you allow people the choice, if you let go of the outcome and allow people to make a choice, they're going to most likely choose what you want. What happens is we feel the pressure. We got to pitch ideas or sell people. And what happens is when we pitch ideas, our brain sees that as a threat. Like, it will go back into the instinct, which is in the back of our brain, which is like our lizard brain, like our base functioning fight or flight. And, so if you're going to pitch, I'm automatically get on the defensive. I'm in my instinct.
I have to catch it.
I'm coming from a place of fear. Right. And I'm like trying to poke holes in whatever. And already I'm on the defense. So you put me on the defense. You don't mean to, right? You're like, I'm so excited. Let me show you this. And then immediately I'm like, what is this thing? Why is this, And what I teach instead of that is like, you do a lot of listening to people and asking a lot of questions and looking for openings to where your idea would fit their needs. Right. So like, if you had some new idea that you gave a Cause Camp for social media, like, I really want to implement this idea. I'm going to go tell my boss all about it and how great it is. Instead, it would be like, so tell me, what's going on? How do you feel like the social media is working? What are your goals for that? I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that, because now I have this new idea that I just learned. And I think, I think it would fit the need that you just described, and if you're open to it, I'd love to share it with you. And I always ask permission to share an idea. And if you're open to it, I'd love to share it with you. Now, this requires trust, right? Because you're going to want to pitch it and push it. So, oh yeah, okay, I'll hear it. Now I've put you in a position where you went from the fight or flight in the back of your brain to your prefrontal cortex, where new information comes in. So now you're relaxed and there's trust. Once there's trust, then you'll be more open to what I have to say. But my job is to allow you to feel seen and heard and understood. And once you do that, then I can share what I want. And what most people do it the opposite. They're like, I want to get my needs met. I want to say what I have to say so that you'll say, and then I'll do what you want. Right. But I want you to do what I want first, and then I'm all yours. So our job is to move people out of the instinct into the prefrontal cortex, into the front of our brain, where new information comes in, where you're open to receiving new things. And to do that, I need someone to feel seen and heard. Because if they feel seen and heard, they relax. When they relax, they come out of that defensive place, and now they're open to new information. And what happens is we're taught, and I don't know why, but we're taught to pitch and sell and close and all of that. And we come with our brochures. And listen, I spent many years making brochures and case, and those are great. And you want those. yeah, we don't lead with those. You lead with your focus on the other person. I think it's like 70-30, right? If you do 30% of the talking and they do 70% of the talking, you're winning. Cause I hear people all the time, like, especially board members, and they're like, I don't know what to say. And I'm thinking it has so little to do with what you say. It's so much about witnessing the other person and doing it authentically. And that's one thing, Julia, that I didn't really mention is this is all done in authenticity. So if there's really not an opening, there's not an opening. You know what I'm saying? If there's
not forcing a round peg in a square hole.
If there's no true alignment, God, I thought that was a good idea. Maybe it's not.
Right.
It's not all good. And that's one of the things that caused Kim when I talked about is there's so many good ideas. Let's think strategically about how, what you really want to have implemented. Like, where do we think the most opportunity is? And because I'm the same way, like I get a good idea and like, I want to just like, I'll try it all. I'm putting it all on like, oh, right, let's do this. Let's try this. Like, I'll try anything, let's try it. And then a lot of it falls flat. Then you get dejected or you feel like, people aren't really listening or taking you seriously or all those things. And really it's just maybe that idea wasn't the right fit or it's just not getting people to understand the value of it, what the value of it is to them.
Exactly. And that's just the key to everything I teach in marketing is that, like you said, the 70-30 rule, I teach like an 80-20 rule in marketing where I think 80% of the messages need to be completely valuable and designed for the audience.
Right.
And then once you build that trust and affinity and that relationship, then maybe 20% can be you asking them to do something. So I agree. I think when we're trying to get our idea across, I know I hate the word pitch. I've used that so many times. You're pitching your idea.
I just say, like you said, people in my, defensive. And I like to use the word enroll, like enroll people.
Enroll, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Seth Godin, he says, it's so much easier to talk to people that have raised their hand that want to hear from you than trying to scream at strangers.
Yes. That's what my book is about.
Oh, your courageous communication. Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So I love the title. How codependence is making your nonprofit
brand boring. Yeah.
I can't even say it. How codependence is making your nonprofit brand boring and what to do about it. Tell me about this book.
So that is really, well, first I want to say that before I talk about that, I want to finish this thought.
Oh, yes.
Which is the idea of like, yes, the 80-20, how important that is. And we practice that as well, right? You and I and our work, and maybe that's why we have such affinity. We're models for that. Like if you get my emails are like, it's valuable. It's good stuff. Like it's
from your heart.
It is. It's all, everything I do is from my heart, but they are from my heart. And they always teach a little lesson or something. And then every once in a while, okay, yeah, I'm having a live training in a couple of weeks, like, I'm going to promote that always within a little lesson. So I think, when we tell people this is, like being in alignment, I eat my own cooking and I know you do too. I wouldn't tell you to do something that I wouldn't do. Right. I'm not telling you, be a value and I'm pitching. Right. Like, no, and if anybody works with me or talks with me, they'll know it's the same thing. Anyway, so the book is definitely what he said. It's about trying to stop convincing people to care about your nonprofit, connecting with like-minded people, because what I saw was a lot of people wanting to make people care. Like he's like, what did he say? Like, screaming at people, right?
Yes. How do I get people to care? I get that email 20,000 times a day.
You don't.
How do I get people to like us? How do I get people to donate? How do I get people to care?
You don't.
You don't get people to do anything.
You don't, because I want people not to be like sad about that. I want you to feel joy because I don't have to make people care. You can just like take that off your back. You don't have to carry that. You don't have, because first of all, you can't do it. And second of all, it's exhausting you. So it's exhausting your program. It's giving you and that's why they're frustrated and coming to you, because they're not getting the results. And the reason they're not getting the results is they're trying to make people care. And we all have our own philanthropic heart. This is what I call it, like born within us, sent from our personalities were formed from 0 to 7. right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have this philanthropic heart that causes us to react emotionally and feel connection to something over the other thing. And you really can't change that unless something really major happens in somebody's life, a health condition, that affects them or a loved one or some, you know what I mean? Typically,
right.
But typically
it's always your values, your ethics,
right.
What you
that
believe
are
in.
grounded in you from very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And so changing that is, it's really hard to do when there are so many people who want to connect. And so your job is to connect with like-minded people. So to be strong in your mission and your message, stand really strong and tall in your values to connect those like-minded people. What I see in the marketplace is people just trying to appeal to everyone. They're afraid of the C word, controversy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to make anybody mad or whatever. Well, those are never your people. Right. Those were never your people.
Mm-hmm.
And, just letting go of the fantasy relationships of trying to make people care, wanting people maybe if I just ask one more time, if they could just heard our story. I hear that all the time. If they could just hear our story, all right, that completely disavows and is that's a pitch. If they could just hear our story, I know.
Right. Why would they necessarily care about your story?
Right.
You want to get your story in front of the right people.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's about their story and does it align with your story, and understanding where they're coming from and if it's a fit or not, and all of this that we're talking about is rooted in a couple of values of, first of all, the value of abundance, which is there's enough out there for all of us, right? If this donor is not a fit, that's okay. Or this prospective board member is not a fit, that's okay. That's just opening the door for the right one, for the flow of money to come in and out into our organizations. There's and it's rooted in, a lot of trust, just trusting. And so if we want to control everything and control the outcome, and get these people to do this, that's what makes it hard. And really, that's a lot of what I teach is letting that trust, building that, releasing the need to control the outcome, which sounds crazy and almost irresponsible.
No, we can't.
But I'm telling you people raise so much more money, so much more comfortably. Their marketing efforts are working because they've learned these techniques. And then what I did was I work with organizations on the same thing. So I'll go in and work on with a leadership team of an organization. I'll teach them so they can communicate more effectively with each other, be more effective leaders to themselves. And anytime, when people email you, how can I get people to care? Even people email me, how can I make somebody do this? Right? How can I make the board do this or the donors do this? And I always say, if you want people to show up differently, you have to show up differently. So I can't expect somebody to change. I want you all to increase your engagement, but I'm just going to sit here.
Right.
So if I want you to show up differently, I have to show up differently. And that's really what I teach people to do is just stand taller, stand in their power.
Yes. Speak their truth.
Individuals. And because then they can do it as an organization and really understand their value. So they can connect with like-minded people from a position of strength, not a position of please help me. Right. And then that goes all back into the nonprofit thing and why I hate that word because it's a negative and we're defined by a negative and that's.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. What are we changing it to?
Well, so this is my offering, although I'm not wed to it. It's I call it human investment company. Somebody said mission-driven, purpose-driven company, mission-driven company. Every idea I have, somebody's well, what about human investment? What about animals and the environment? I'm
oh, right.
Well, yeah, that's kind of benefits humans. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
Or what about, mission driven? So I don't think there's a perfect one, but they're all better than nonprofit. Right?
We are defined by what we're not.
I know, which is a tax code. And
it is. We are defined by taxes, unfortunately.
And in our country that values an organization based on its profit, we feel like we don't have value because we're not making a profit. And also what we know for sure is this is a very stable business model, hospitals and universities and amazing
employees, almost a third of the workforce, crazy like that. Yes.
And the NFL is a nonprofit, right? Like these major
on that. Yeah.
I know, but these major organizations, right? But we think of nonprofit, like small
churches. Yeah. You got a whole verticals.
Right. And so it's a business model like any other. And when we look at it as, because we don't make a profit or we don't have a transactional relationship with people. Mm-hmm. So we don't have I'm going to give, I like shoes. I give you money. I get the shoes. Like that transactional relationship is how we're used to. This is more of a transformational relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And it has social value to it. And we tend to compare the transactional relationship. We want it to feel the same, right? So that's why I feel like events, like the gift of COVID, I think was you can actually raise money without a gala. Mm-hmm. You can. But people would have galas because
that's what they always did, the status quo.
Yeah. And it felt better because I can charge you $500 if I give you this really fancy party.
Exactly.
That feels transactional. Yes. That feels like a fair exchange. I can't charge you $500 and give you a note back. That doesn't feel fair, right? Because we're using that value system. And so this is what I look at when I work with organizations. It's not always about there is this place, there's mindset and strategy and they work together, but a lot of people I feel like overly focus on strategy to solve what I feel like are mindset issues. So if 100%. We can be comfortable asking for money, if we can be comfortable in our value and understand the value the gift that fundraising is, then we can relax a little and we can move through those feelings and start asking for money, asking for and receiving what we want and need without having to throw a party. And I love a party. It's not a party.
Exactly. No, I think it is the mindset that we have this imposter syndrome that we need to give people a tote bag or give people a shirt with a bunch of logos on it or give people a gala. And we need to escape that and really figure out our worth.
Right.
And our meaning and the way that we help people create meaningful lives just with the work that we do.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm doing and what you're doing. And I feel the shift, the shift's happening. I think that's another gift of COVID is really, I think a lot of organizations really stepped into power they never even knew they had until until COVID came. So I think that is, and also, I feel like one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about what I do is because there's a lot of cleanup coming. I'm not sure what it looks like, and I yes, I'm vaccinated and we had a very small version of our usually big crawfish boil this Saturday. All of these little things are happening. And yet I know there's so much more that's going to need to be done. And who's going to do it?
Nonprofits.
Right? Nonprofits. And so for all of us to step up a little bit, if we all just step up a little bit in our leadership and over ourselves, ask more of ourselves, but I have to ask more of myself before I'm going to ask more of anyone else, so ask more of ourselves so we can ask more of each other, because I think there's work to do. And I think we're completely capable of doing it. And we're just kind of called, I think, into that space.
Queen of effervescent badassery, Maryanne Dersch. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Where can people find you and learn more about you?
Well, if you go to, I have a leadership guide. It's called, you just go to nonprofitleadershipguide.com. And I have an ebook around a lot of the principles and things I'm talking about today is in that book. And I have a couple of other goodies in there, a guide to how to have difficult conversations with kind of it's sort of an outline of what we were talking about, that deep listening approach and finding the opening. So that's the best way you can get all those goodies, and then we'll be connected. And if you want to reach out to me, if you're interested in thinking, man, I want effervescent badassery.
Who doesn't?
I know. You can go to connectwithmaryanne.com, and I'm happy to, I do 30 minutes free for anyone. I love meeting new people. And again, I don't pitch or sell, right?
And you're going to tell us about your champagne line that will be coming out at some point. Effervescent badassery.
Maybe it's like a bubble bath.
Bubble bath. Yes. I love it. Well, thanks so much for being here. Well, hey there. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into my show and for listening all the way to the end. If you really enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. I would love if you left me a rating or a review, because this tells other people that my podcast is worth listening to. And then me and my guests can reach even more earbuds and create even more impact. So that's pretty much it. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. But until then, you can find me on Instagram at JuliaCampbell77. Keep changing the world, you nonprofit unicorn.